we learn a lot about the superpower of the West, the great feats of Western civilization. And this is a powerful experience to experience this live, to talk to them, to understand how they think, even once again with the language barrier. It's something that is priceless. And at the same time, my personal conclusion as well, it's impossible to explain this to the West. Absolutely impossible. For instance, the Chinese understand that. Civilizations in Asia who were part of the decolonization process in the second part of the 20th century, they understand that. The Americans, the NATO-stunned space, the European Union, the West as a whole, the fragmented the former collective West, now fragmented, there's no chance in hell they will ever understand that. I'm talking about the political elites. We have already a lot of young people all across the West who totally understand what Yemen is doing, instinctively, viscerally, naturally. But the elites don't know, and considering the degree of corruption, and especially now the degree of panic, considering that all their projects, starting with Project Ukraine, are vanishing, it's impossible to explain that. The clarity, the moral rectitude, the seriousness of these people. And I would say possibly the most important element, the selfishness. It's not because they're going to gain something out of it, monetary gain or whatever. It's not selfish. It's not individualism. It's not cowboy diplomacy. They do this because they feel the need to help a people who, like them, these past few years, have been bombed, have been attacked, harassed, and of course, there was not a genocide here. There was a famine provoked by the war. But in the case of Palestine, a genocide. Because morally and religiously, drives them to adopt this position. This is very, very serious. And we heard this even from Yahya Saree himself. Yahya Saree is a top military guy. And he thinks exactly like that. He understands the spiritual, cultural dimension of the whole thing. It's simple. Nima, I think the number one lesson for all of us who we had the privilege to visit Yemen at this crossroads is this, it's impossible to explain their character, their spiritual strength, and their vision to absolutely decadent former collective West. This is the number one lesson. And it's great to learn this here. You can only learn this if you come here and if you talk to them.
Before wrapping up this session,
yes,
the new intelligence report today came out that Tulsi Gabbard and her team is talking about that Iran is not preparing or is not looking after nuclear weapons.
Well, everybody, we knew that. You knew that, right, Nima?
Actually, Bill Burns, before leaving Washington, reported on that. Do you think the situation, how do you find the situation between Iran and the United States right now? On one side, you see that the Trump administration is trying to somehow manipulate the situation and put in pressure, as we talk about in the fighting with the Yemenis, and the way that putting a lot of sanctions, a lot of political pressure on the Iranian government. On the other hand, we had the foreign minister of Iran 2 days ago said that under pressure, we are not going to negotiate with you.
Exactly.
If you go in that direction. And how do you see these interactions between the two parties?
I think I'll have a much better grasp of all that. I plan to go to Iran in early May, Nima. I hope you will be there as well. It's absolutely essential if you are a geopolitical analyst, to go to Iran now, in the next few weeks, etc., to see by ourselves and talk to key actors. Once again, their overall broader vision. They have absolutely no illusions about whatever administration is in power in DC. But they know that they have Russia and China. They got Iran's back, but to a certain limit, of course. And we still don't know where's that limit. If this limit is an all-out war, for instance, will Russia and China have Iran's back? Totally. We don't know. We don't know. Even with their strategic partnerships, Iran has strategic partnerships with both, but they are more geoeconomic than geopolitical, and militarily to a certain extent, especially with Russia. So this is essential. And Iran is very steadfast in its position, which is a principled position. We have the right to have a civilian nuclear program, and we're not going to abandon, period. And we are not looking to build a nuclear weapon. This has been the same position since forever, right? It's not going to change. But obviously, how do you explain this to a bunch of warmongers controlled by the Zionists? You can't, because first of all, you would be discussing a very sensitive matter with a bunch of fanatics. So we have this mix of maximum pressure 2.0, which is what Trump 2.0 is doing. These, I would say, half-hearted attempts to have a dialogue. Example, the famous letter that Trump sent to Tehran, which the Iranians are still analyzing, and there's going to be a very sophisticated response to that letter. This is not something that you respond with a yes or no or 3 or 4 lines. No, the Iranians are studying it carefully, and they're going to have a very sophisticated response. And of course, threats. This is what the empire always does. We haven't reached the point of, in the case here in Yemen, actual strikes. But this is very, very serious, because everybody around Trump, everybody that has a certain position, is a Zionist or bought by Zionists. So that's very, very complicated. And Trump obviously listens to these people, even if maybe they don't even are capable to form his opinion on something, but he has to consult with these people. And the level is very, very low. I would say that in many aspects it reaches the clownish level of the Sigma non-leak. So that's very complicated, right, Nima? Because he's surrounded by a bunch of... it's very, very complicated. And obviously, because Trump is not a strategist, he doesn't understand. Okay, being diplomatic. About geopolitics, he is that transactional thing, but it is, there's no win-win for him. It's win-lose, and I win, you lose. So it's absolute. And when it comes to the JCPOA, which he destroyed, how the Iranians can possibly believe that they can do a JCPOA 2.0 with a guy who destroyed the first one? It doesn't make sense. So the Americans will have to offer something, I would say, on an adult level to Tehran. For the moment, zero. And I don't see it coming anytime soon.